Now, Third Wheel Exclusive's all about immersive sim racing, and you can't really do immersive sim racing if you've got a whack field of view.
Oh man, on the right. It's chaos. Clear. The next car's the leader. It's all chaos.
Over the years, I've built quite a few different sim rigs, and as I've shared them with you guys, I always get asked the same question over and over again. So many want to know how I'm able to get the FOV to look so real. And the truth is, I came up with a foolproof system years ago. Because what I realized is, all you really have to do is throw out the calculator. For years, sim racers have been conditioned into thinking the FOV calculator was the gold standard for setting up triple screen monitors. Now, this may be an unpopular opinion, and I may get a lot of backlash for it, but I think the calculator may actually be that thing that's stopping everybody from being able to achieve an immersive field of view. Now, this is nowhere near being the first video I've made explaining how I set up my FOV, but as things continue to change either on the rig or through software updates, I think it's important to keep things updated. So this is just the early 2026 version of a video I made a few years ago. Now let's jump inside the rig, and I'll explain to you guys how I've set up the most immersive FOV I possibly could without ever using a calculator. So when it comes to setting up your perfect FOV, it really comes down to more than just setting the monitors and the settings in iRacing or any other game. It's really about how you color tune as well. Otherwise, it's not going to look as natural. Now, depending on how you guys are seeing this, the screen might look a little dark and washed out. And that's because I use a camera most of the time. So if I don't turn down the brightness pretty significantly, it can really overpower the shot. But if you're just racing, you could probably not have your brightness down that low. Like I'll put that down to like 18, and you can also increase your saturation quite a bit, and then it just comes down to how you want to color tune it. So as you guys can see, that makes a pretty big difference in the details on the screen. Basically, iRacing runs a little bit warm toned anyways, so if I put this back to like 6,000, that's probably a closer color to what it runs, and it just feels really warm all the time. So I try to neutralize it a bit by setting it to about 7,000 for the color temperature, and then like I said, running negative 33. And honestly, I hadn't noticed it until a second ago, but negative 33 with the color saturation actually doesn't look bad. It's still a little dim, but I kind of like it with that color. I just have to see how it looks on camera. So I'm going to put it back to 85 for right now. It basically, depending on your monitors and everything you're using, these settings might be a little different, but if you go in and tune this on the front side, it's going to make your overall view look a lot better, and it's going to feel like your graphics are running a lot better than they are, because it's going to feel more natural and realistic, or at least as close as you can get it. Now, with iRacing loaded up, you guys can see that the FOV is pretty much exactly the same as I had it on the wallpaper. So now I've already color tuned it. I know exactly what I'm gonna get when I get here. Everything looks pretty good. But if I was gonna set up FOV, a lot of you asked me for the F12 settings. I don't use F12 settings because I feel like it distorts things, and it's better not to use it as little, or it's better to use it as little as possible and use it sparingly. And I've kind of gotten down a system to where I don't really need it at all. So for those of you that have asked for settings, for my monitors, I have curved monitors. I have it set as 3 flats. The monitor width is 28.98. That's not the actual monitor width. That's just kind of like where I found everything felt natural. The bezel, I've done negative 0.08. That basically cleans up the bezel lines so that it aligns almost as close as it possibly can. Depending on what angle you're seeing it at, it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but it's close enough. And then viewing distance is just based on what I felt like looked right as I move the screens in and out. My monitor angle is somewhere around 55. It's not exact, but again, I adjusted until the passenger side looked proper. And one other thing I forgot to mention, make sure you use render scene using 3 projections. If you're not rendering 3 projections, then you get like a hard cut right here where your dash just runs along the monitor. So if you guys are seeing your monitor run along the dash, you need to turn that on. And then as far as field of view, again, I'm not using a calculator for any of this. I basically went through from like 150 to 170 and found the field of view that I felt like worked the best for this particular car. And basically, I'll just fine tune these numbers until everything looks right. So I wanted you guys to know what the numbers were that I had, but ultimately, depending on your monitors, your screen angle, distance to the monitor, all of this might be a little bit different, but the thing is, like, it feels completely natural. I don't have any issues with like my race times or anything like that because I'm not following a calculator. And in fact, I believe it's been tested and proven that a slightly off FOV can be just as effective as one that's dead on to a calculator. Now, there is a range where it starts getting wonky and out of control, but you're not going to hit that trying to get everything to line up right. And as you guys can see, when I come back out of here and go into the car, it feels very natural. Like, I actually found that trying to follow the calculator and do the calculations and everything left like the passenger side door was sitting like right here, which didn't give me any depth. And the mirror, I just wasn't overly happy with the placement of the mirror on this side. So it definitely made a huge difference getting away from using the calculator and just going with what looked right and felt right. In fact, even the A-frame bar right here on the roll cage would be probably about over here on the screen. And then it leaves this weird gap and I can't get my net quick release to line up. Like, there's just so many things that are solved by doing this the way that I've done it. And I would say if you guys want the most accurate race performance FOV, use a calculator. If you want it to feel real, then just do what feels right. Now, during that segment, I mentioned that I might want to try upping the saturation on my screens, and I've gone back and looked at the video, and honestly, I think the settings are still the best that they could possibly be, with them being a little bit dimmed out and not quite as saturated. So I'm going to leave it the way it is, and ultimately, like, the biggest problem with it is the dash gets a little bit dimmed down or dulled out, but at the same time, I've built up so much of the 3D printed dash around the screens that I think that doesn't stand out as much anymore, and it looks pretty decent anyways. Now, again, if you're not using a camera to record on, it did look pretty good in person, and I think, you know, that -18 for brightness and like the 95 saturation mark was actually a bit more realistic to the eyes. So like, both are good. It just depends on which one you prefer when you get in there and start checking it out. Now, there may have been some settings and explanations in that segment that I moved through kind of quickly. If I missed anything, let me know down in the comments, but I'll also link in the old video that I think may have been a little more detailed. It's just quite a bit outdated, filmed with older camera footage and just not necessarily as up to date as this one will be, but it's still relevant and I still leave it up because I think it's still helpful. So I'll link that in at the end of the video if you guys need it. Now, before I tell you guys what's coming up for the Cup Car 2.0 build, because you know I got to do it every video, I just want to answer two more questions you guys have had. So first off, I've had a lot of people ask, what happens when I want to race in a different car on the Cup Car 2.0 sim rig? How does it integrate? How does it look? So I'm going to show you guys that. But also, some of you have asked for a tutorial on how to set up FOV in Assetto Corsa. And I'm going to let you guys decide whether this looks good enough for me to even share this, because I spend so much time in iRacing that I don't know. But right now I'm going to share just one quick clip so you guys can see what it looks like to drive the BMW in Assetto Corsa, even though I'm in basically a Cup Car replica rig. And also you guys can check out the screens and tell me if you think it's worth me sharing the settings and going through that process again for the same thing. So last week I shared the SimRig's ambient lighting system with you guys, and you said you wanted to see it at night so you could see what it looks like with headlights and all that stuff. So I've loaded into No Hesi, and I'm just kind of cruising the streets right now, waiting till it gets dark outside so I can show you guys. But I thought I'd let you see what it looks like in the daytime in No Hesi. That way you have something to compare it to. Another fun experience is being inside the tunnels. And then when we get out of the tunnel here, you guys will see it's nice and dark. And the ambient lighting system is reacting to street lights, a little bit of the headlights. You get that like little increased glow on top of the street lights flickering. And it just feels super immersive. So an E92 street car wouldn't have racing nets, so I disconnected them, which does kill a little bit of the immersion. But as you guys can see, for a car built for the Porsche Cup series, it doesn't look bad racing a different car on it. It's just that now when I race the main car that I typically like to race, it matches perfectly. And now those of you that were asking for FOV settings for Assetto Corsa can let me know if it's actually worth it to use the ones that I use. Now recently I told you guys that I'd be working on a door and a new button box, and shortly after that, the printer went down and I had to do some repairs on it. I've run a lot of filament through it and it's starting to get a little bit worn out. It's up and running again, but I'm not where I needed to be. I am in the process of building the new faceplate for the button box, and I've got a decent chunk of the door printed, Though I haven't done a whole lot of mounting or getting stuff put on it yet, it is coming together pretty well, and I'm hoping in the next couple weeks I'll be able to share an update with you guys where I have a new button box faceplate with RGB lighting in it and the new door built, and like that full process will be able to be shared in a later video. So if you guys aren't already following the Cup Car 2.0 build or third wheel exclusive as a whole, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. And until next video, go give our sponsors some love by checking out the links in the description, and I'll see you guys out on the track.